Tonight, I let my state down. Joseph Swali'i's regret for the tackle which may have KO'd the Blues' origin hopes. Fears of a cancer cluster at Liverpool Council. One of the women speaks to 9 News. The South Coast smashed and Sydney is next. Up to 250 millimetres of rain on the way. A toddler held at gunpoint in a home invasion at Hinchinbrook. The Premier's historic apology, 40 years in the making. And in the sky and on the shore, high emotion as Europe marks 80 years since D-Day.
This is 9 News with Peter Overton.
Good evening. It was a tackle that echoed around the stadium, and today the repercussions echoed across the state. In the 7th minute of State of Origin Game 1, a moment which will forever remain part of its rugged folklore. Debutant Joseph Swali'i sent off after knocking out Maroon rival Reece Walsh in a brutal hit. Today, a remorseful Swali'i admitted he'd let the state down.
Stepping out from the security of the Blues team hotel, Joseph Swali'i full of guilt for his sickening high shot.
Yeah, disappointed. Letting my family, my state and especially my teammates down. I feel like that's probably the toughest thing about it.
A series-defining moment just 7 minutes into Swali'i's Origin debut. The 20-year-old is facing a 4 to 5 game suspension for the tackle that ruled Reece Walsh out of the match.
I didn't mean it at all. I just went there to go tackle him, accidentally clipped his head. So I hope he's doing all right. I hope he's family doing well. But yeah, I didn't mean to get him in the head.
Michael Maguire rubbishing suggestions the Blues deliberately targeted Walsh illegally.
That's ridiculous. At the end of the day, they've got their opinions, which I'll hold my tongue on that one.
The new Blues boss must now decide if halfback Nico Hines remains in sky blue.
Do you believe Nico deserves a second chance or another chance in the Origin arena?
I've got to have time to review the game and have a look at what I see, and I'm not going to make any comment about any player.
We're trying our best out there with 12. It's a team effort out there. It's not down to one man.
Only once has New South Wales won a State of Origin series after losing Game 1 on home soil. They must beat the Maroons in Melbourne, then again in Brisbane to break a 30-year hoodoo.
That's just the reality of it, so we're looking forward to the challenge.
You just have to win.
Exactly right, you just got to win.
We'll get together again and regroup and show everyone that what this team's made of.
At Sydney Olympic Park, Zach Bailey, 9 News.
And more Origin later in the bulletin. 3 women working in the same office at Liverpool City Council have contracted thyroid cancer, prompting fears of a cluster. Council has launched an investigation and is confident it may just be a tragic coincidence, but one of the women is not so sure.
Jenny Havilar is recovering in St George Hospital from thyroid cancer surgery.
I have my thyroid and some lymph nodes removed, and I'll get the results in a week or so.
And she's not alone after her time working on the 6th floor at this Liverpool City Council office.
To hear that you've got 3 workmates, you were 5 metres apart, and you all seem to have the same issue.
It certainly sounds very sinister.
And there's a 4th worker currently in the UK and suffering a thyroid issue.
I'm worried about my colleagues, not just on the 6th floor, that worked anywhere in that building.
A coincidence or a cancer cluster? It has the Liverpool Council scrambling to find the truth. The 6th floor of this building is now a no-go zone as an investigation is launched.
The council's acting CEO, Jason Breton, informed staff at a meeting this week.
All 3 ladies are in different stages of their illness, and all three are well and rigorous and working.
He did say that all the women were working and well. Well, I'm far from working and well.
The council has reported the issue to the Department of Health and engaged an environmental health consultant who will look for any potential link.
Yes, we'll get some media about this. Okay, we'll deal with that. We have a bit of a strategy about that.
Today, the council refused interviews, instead issuing a statement. We have been informed that it is unlikely there is a causal connection between our workplace and the cancer diagnosis.
These are people's lives at risk, and we should always have them at the forefront of the response.
Fingers crossed, yeah. Hopefully it'll be all right. I'm tough.
In Liverpool, Damien Ryan, 9 News.
Sydney is tonight on flood watch with as much as 250 millimetres of rain on the way. It's already hit the south coast, streets vanishing under the deluge.
A Thursday afternoon downpour across our south coast and what used to be the front yard of a family's Shoalhaven home.
Can we go surfing?
No. Entire streets submerged in ankle-deep water.
We have no control. It's just a matter of watching and acting and doing the best we can.
Roads turning waterways at Kangaroo Valley. Some drivers riding it out, but not everyone making it through. This pea-plater in Huskisson rescued from floodwater. Over the last 24 hours, parts of the south coast have seen a month's worth of rain. Shoalhaven and Illawarra worst hit.
The southern Illawarra coast, where it has been raining most, if not all, of that past 12 hours, and not just raining, but raining heavily.
A taste of what's ahead. Next stop, Sydney. Ruth Wynne-Williams, 9 News. A number of warnings are right now in place, including for here at Windsor. A moderate flood warning covers this area along the Hawkesbury to North Richmond. And there is a moderate flood warning right now on the Nepean River at Menangle, extending to Penrith tonight as well. Advice for people in those areas is to stay alert, stay vigilant. This rain band, as it moves through, will impact our waterways into the weekend. Pete?
Thank you so much, Ruth. Amber's with us in the studio now. Amber, how much rain have we seen in Sydney today?
Good evening, Pete. Nothing like the south coast yet, but as we've heard, that could change in the next 12 hours. Most suburbs picking up 5 to 20 millimetres of rain today, but our southern coastal suburbs have seen more. Little Bay, the airport and Marrickville have all been drenched with more than 40 millimetres, 32 in Sans Souci and more than 25 millimetres in Manly and Canterbury. Tonight, there is a severe weather warning in place for our southern suburbs, with another 60 millimetres of rain on the way, a lighter 30 millimetres expected in our north. And there is plenty more on the way tomorrow. So will our weekend plans be washed out? I'll be back a little later with the full forecast, Pete.
Amber, thank you. Police are tonight hunting for 9 men after a terrifying armed home invasion in Sydney's southwest. The raid by the gang of masked intruders saw a family, including a 2-year-old, threatened at gunpoint.
A damaged door off its hinges, the remnants of a horror break-in at this Hinchinbrook home. Grandmother Amy Ellis was heading to bed around 10:30 last night when 9 men kicked down her front door.
Those offenders were wearing balaclavas and gloves, and 3 of those offenders, 2 of which were armed with shotguns and 1 was armed with a pistol.
The men began demanding cash and phones, pointing their weapons at Amy's family, including her 2-year-old grandchild.
I just heard a lot of shouting, yeah. It was pretty scary at that time of night.
Amy's 42-year-old husband, Mohammed, was assaulted. He was taken to Liverpool Hospital with a dislocated shoulder. The group fled Bowerbird Street, police now combing through CCTV to identify them and track down their vehicles.
A blue Volkswagen Touareg and a white Hyundai.
Amy was too shaken to speak on camera, but has told 9 News she doesn't know who the masked group are or why they attacked her family.
Whether or not this is targeted, whether it's random, mistaken, so that will all form part of the investigation.
In Hinchinbrook, Erin Ramsey, 9 News.
40 years ago doesn't seem that far away, but back then you could go to prison in this state for being gay. The law changed in 1984, but only today did Premier Chris Minns stand up in Parliament to make an historic apology to all those who had suffered.
The first Mardi Gras in 1978 and the years before and after, police were heavy-handed with openly gay men and women, armed with a law that made homosexuality illegal. 1,000 men were convicted every year.
Police from Darlinghurst Police Station very regularly attack gay people.
In 1984, the Rand government decriminalised homosexuality, and today that watershed moment for the gay community was remembered.
We're here to apologise for every life that was damaged or diminished or destroyed by these unjust laws. To those who survived these terrible years and to those who never made it through, we are truly sorry.
And there was thanks to the activists who changed the law, from the first openly gay member of the Upper House, Penny Sharp.
I'm able to do this job, have the family I have, my son's here today, and live the life I want because of your efforts.
And from one of those convicted and jailed,
trans woman Jackie Grant.
So all my peers are dead, long gone, died from suicide, drug overdoses.
MP Alex Greenwich, not content with just an apology, is proposing an equality bill that would include giving trans people the right to change their original ID.
These are reforms that ensure teachers in New South Wales can't be fired for marrying a same-sex partner. These are reforms that say a kid can't be kicked out of a private school simply for coming out.
Today, a simple apology, paving the way for those reforms.
We're also here to offer you thanks for giving us a future that is better than your past.
Mark Burrows, 9 News.
Sweeping new safety laws to tackle knife crime have passed state parliament. Police will now be able to use metal detecting devices to search people for the possession of knives in a range of public places. The reforms, inspired by Jack's Law in Queensland, which were brought in after 17-year-old Jack Beasley was stabbed and killed on a night out in Surfers Paradise.
It's actually very emotional, it is.
Yeah.
It really is. It does mean a lot to us, and to our family. So, and in Jack's honour.
Jack's parents met the Premier yesterday and were in Parliament to see the laws pass. An extra week of paid annual leave sounds nice. Well, it could become a reality if trade unions get their way. The proposals also include younger workers getting paid more, but employer groups say it will all end up costing jobs and businesses.
Before dawn in Adelaide, the Prime Minister paying for coffee.
Gotta get the right one. Pretty good here.
He was served by 24-year-old Katie. Tonight, though, unions want any younger colleagues to be the ones paid more.
Those young workers, they pay full rate on groceries, full rate on rents.
Junior rates apply to 75 awards in low-paid industries such as hospitality, retail and fast food, usually for those under 20.
As an 18-year-old, I'm earning $10 less than a 21-year-old, roughly.
This is quite a natural thing that junior workers would be paid less than seasoned workers. And that's reflected in the current settings.
Tonight, the change is just a proposal and would need to be negotiated into awards or approved by the Fair Work Commission.
I support the Fair Work Commission and Fair Work Commission having proper processes.
And in the City of Churches, a union prayer for another week of leave for Australian workers.
We would again urge that common sense be applied here.
These proposals come at a time of weakness in the economy and productivity, but they also come at a time of increased union influence here in the corridors of power. The Prime Minister and Workplace Minister Tony Burke honoured and on hand as unions gathered last night.
Our trade union movement will not forget what this Labor government has done.
Charles Croucher, 9 News.
A man accused of murdering his ex-wife in the state Central West has died in hospital after being found unresponsive in his cell at Silverwater Jail. 36-year-old Troy Armstrong drove his ute at 140 kilometres an hour into Christy Armstrong's sedan at Molong near Orange last year. The Greens leader is threatening to sue the Federal Attorney-General over comments about the party's involvement with pro-Palestinian protests. Labor and the Coalition are accusing the Greens of stoking division for political gain.
Balaclava-clad pro-Palestinian protesters have been systematically targeting government MPs' offices, promoting their vandalism on social media and their spraying of the red inverted triangle, a symbol of Hamas. A covert campaign claiming Labor's complicit in genocide, which echoes the Greens' claim.
Labor's ongoing complicity and support for the invasion.
That is complicity in genocide.
Protests outside Minister Julie Collins' office suggesting Greens' involvement. The Greens leader himself calling for a blockading of government.
The Greens have been nothing other than causing division.
Unfortunately, the Greens have been sprung doing that.
The Attorney-General going further, accusing the Greens and its leader of encouraging criminal behaviour.
My lawyers have written to the Attorney-General regarding what I consider to be defamatory statements.
But attacks like this one on Labor MP Jed Carney's Melbourne office on Tuesday night has all MPs on edge.
They seek in a divisive way to raise these issues in order to then weaponise them.
We are a party of peace and non-violence.
There have been 725 reports of threats being made against Australian MPs, up 160%. So every politician has an interest in avoiding incendiary comments. Andrew Probyn, 9 News.
At least 45 people are dead after an Israeli airstrike on a United Nations-run school in central Gaza, according to local officials. Israel's military confirmed the strike, saying they were targeting a Hamas compound inside. A suspected Russian-Ukrainian terrorist has been arrested in Paris just weeks before the Olympics. The 26-year-old suffered serious burns after an explosion in his airport hotel room. Investigators found guns, false passports and materials for bomb making. Anthony Albanese has spoken with Narendra Modi to congratulate him on his election win. The Indian Prime Minister has secured the backing of his political allies, allowing him to form a coalition government. He's expected to be sworn in for an historic third term over the weekend. As we go to air tonight, commemorations are underway in France, marking the 80th anniversary of D-Day. Let's go live to Europe correspondent Jessica Millwood in Normandy. Jess, a solemn and emotional day.
Hi Pete, that's right. It's the morning of the D-Day anniversary here in France, and already we've seen some really poignant and moving moments. The main services will take place this afternoon to be attended by the royal family, the French president and the US President Joe Biden. So naturally, security is very tight both here in France and in the UK, where commemorations have already taken place in the lead up to the anniversary of the invasion that would change the course of history. A Normandy beach landing at 7:26 a.m. The exact moment 160,000 Allied soldiers stormed French shores 80 years ago. The service, one of several held at sunrise in France. D-Day Eve commemorations started across the English Channel at Portsmouth, where troops set out from. The spectacular event had song, dance and stories of the bold mission to liberate Europe in the largest amphibious invasion in military history.
I always considered myself one of the lucky ones that survived because so many of us didn't.
The King leading a long list of dignitaries to pay tribute to the bravery.
For we are all eternally in their debt.
Eric Bateman was there on that day in 1944. He spoke alongside his 2 great-grandchildren, the King and Queen, among many, moved to tears.
So many men and women, including my dear friend Fred, who joined up with me, but unfortunately never made it. I'm proud to be here today to honour them and to make sure they will always be remembered.
A breathtaking fly-past to conclude, as more veterans gathered on the French shores where so much blood was shed. The Normandy landings weren't just by sea but air as well. The some 13,000 paratroopers that descended in the dark of night commemorated in a reenactment over French fields. Australia's main contribution to D-Day was in the air. Our aircrew, serving in dozens of squadrons, considered so crucial in the overall success of the invasion. As the sun set, commemorations took a more sombre tone before 25,000 war graves lit up in memory of the so many fallen. In Normandy, France, Jessica Millward, 9 News.
An extraordinary day in court as the man accused of murdering 2 campers takes the stand. The Outback Wrangler face-to-face with the widow of co-star Chris Wilson. Also tonight, a high-stakes rescue at Epping, 10 stories up. And the lift-off, years in the making, Boeing blasts into the space race. A cyclist has died after a crash in Belrose on Sydney's northern beaches earlier this week. The 47-year-old was one of 2 men hit by a car on Forest Way on Tuesday. Accused Victorian campers killer Greg Lynn has sensationally given evidence at his double murder trial. The former Jetstar pilot told the families of Russell Hill and Carol Clay he's sorry for their suffering, but maintained the pair's deaths were a tragic accident.
Partners, sons and grieving daughters among those converging on the Supreme Court for what would be standing room only in one of the most significant days of the trial to date. All eyes were on the witness box as Greg Lynn chose to be one of the very few accused killers to be questioned at his own murder trial. You understand that not coming forward, causing immeasurable pain to their family and loved ones, that people will regard your acts as despicable. It was despicable. All I can say to the families is that I'm very sorry for their suffering. An apology almost 3 years after the remains of Russell Hill and Carol Clay were found in Victoria's high country. The 57-year-old telling the court he panicked, torching their campsite and their bodies before painting his car and removing its awning in an attempt to cover his tracks. Do you deserve to be punished for that conduct? Yes, I deserve to be punished. In this trial, have you offered to plead guilty to the destruction of evidence? Yes, I have. But despite standing trial on 2 counts of murder, Lynn claims he had no reason to kill either of them, maintaining it was all a tragic accident sparked by a dispute over Mr. Hill's drone. As a result of that dispute, you murdered Mr. Hill. That's not true. You took aim at Miss Clay and you shot at her multiple times. That's not true. As he stood in the witness box facing a possible lifetime behind bars, this was Greg Lynn's one and only chance at convincing the jury that he is not a killer. Now his fate is in the hands of 14 jurors who could hand down their verdict as early as next week. Amber Johnston, 9 News.
Outback wrangler Matt Wright has come face to face with the widow of his co-star Chris Wilson at Sydney's Federal Court. Danielle Wilson is suing Wright and Australia's aviation regulator over the helicopter crash that killed her husband in 2022.
It's not going to bring our mate back, is it?
We'll have more on this story in A Current Affair right after the news. There's been a high-rise rescue operation at a construction site in Epping after a worker fell 3 metres from a ladder and into a confined space. Crews were forced to navigate their way through narrow openings to reach him this morning. He was taken to hospital in a serious condition. Neighbours joining forces and cashing in on Sydney's density push.
For these owners, their current homes that are worth $5 to $6 million will jump to $12 million plus.
Our latest health snapshot is out and there's a glimmer of good news. Plus a Blacktown family's bizarre tyre delivery takes a new turn. And the simple life advice from Australia's oldest woman, 110 today. New South Wales Health has released its latest winter virus snapshot. In the past week, there's been a 22% spike in COVID cases, with the highest rates among those aged 65 and over. Influenza was up 30%, however, RSV had dropped by 13%. North Shore residents are teaming up with their neighbours to sell parcels of historic homes and cash in on Sydney's denser housing push. As the government rips up red tape to build apartment blocks near train stations, more homeowners across the city will have developers knocking.
The original plans for Shanti King's Roseville home date back a century.
You can see that the floor plan's exactly the same.
But now it's back to the drawing board. After 18 years, the Kings of Kings Avenue are selling up, and so are their 2 neighbours as one amalgamated block.
It's hard to think about the memories. For us, it's better to actually be part of the progress that's happening rather than resisting it.
The state government's new push for apartments near transport hubs made them pull the trigger.
Did we want to be that lone standing house? So it made sense to, work with our neighbours to consolidate as a residential site.
It's a sign of the times. In the suburb's premier pocket, Colliers is selling 5 homes on Oliver Road. Around the corner, Savills has listed another 5 as one mega block straddling Lord Street and Roseville Avenue.
That will equate to about 120 apartments which will mean for these owners, their current homes that are worth $5 to $6 million will jump to $12 million plus.
These are beautiful old homes. What do you say to people that are heartbroken to see them bulldozed?
Sydney's density needs more homes, so there is only one way forward, and that's providing density close to rail hubs and transport hubs.
The area's history stems from the early 1900s, when the expanding North Shore line transformed paddocks into residential streets. That proximity to rail now the target of a new housing boom. Roseville, one of 31 suburbs, slated for 138,000 new apartments within 400 metres of train stations. Looser planning rules allow for blocks of up to 6 storeys with no minimum lot size. But many of the neighbours are concerned the plans will destroy the history of their street and isolate the homes left behind. They're also worried the infrastructure can't keep up. Ku-ring-gai Council is fighting back, challenging the government in the Land and Environment Court.
There's twists and turns and nothing certain.
Including what your neighbour might think on the other side of the fence. In Roseville, Annalise Bolt, 9 News.
A Blacktown family's tyre mystery took a turn for the better today. The men who made the delivery and left hundreds of tyres on the driveway today apologised and told the homeowner they had the wrong address. They're set to pick them up in the coming days. Boeing Starliner is tonight soaring to the stars with 2 NASA astronauts on board. The historic launch following years of budget blowouts and delays.
3, 2, 1, ignition.
At long last,
liftoff.
Boeing gets its page in the history books.
Carrying 2 American heroes, drawing a line to the stars for all of us.
A decade in the making, Starliner, with crew on board, leaves planet Earth. Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams enjoyed their final steps on Earth for now. There were prayers and flowers, one last look and a wave, then a message before they were bound for the International Space Station.
Now let's put some fire in this rocket and let's push it to the heavens.
Starliner has been plagued by costly delays. 2 previous attempts were aborted. Today, a cause for celebration and relief.
I see the hard work of the team and just felt, a sense of accomplishment.
There was praise from Elon Musk. Starliner is to rival SpaceX's Crew Dragon in the commercial space race.
What we're doing is expanding our reach to the stars.
Tomorrow, Boeing's capsule will dock with the International Space Station. The crew will test Starliner's ability to act as a shelter. Sonny and Butch also carry a pump to fix a plumbing problem on board the ISS. They're expected to return home in 9 days. Humanity is reaching for the stars. In the United States, Jonathan Kersley, 9 News.
Australia's oldest woman is celebrating her 110th birthday. South Australian great-grandmother Lorna Henstridge has been thrown a garden party by 3 generations of her family.
It's almost overwhelming because I would not expect it. I would be hobbling around.
Lorna still enjoys a daily crossword, walks and coffee dates with her daughter, and her secret to a long life, staying active. Double demerit's about to kick in. That story coming up after sport. Also tonight, your first look inside the new attraction opening in southwestern Sydney. Plus a frightening encounter for a family on safari. James, the Blues have got Joseph Swali'i's back.
They certainly do. Good evening to you, Pete. They're rallying around the Roosters' young gun after that stunning Origin send-off. The Maroons, not quite as sympathetic, with Reece Walsh even wondering if the tackle was deliberate. Can our women restore state pride tonight? We're live to Newcastle for Game 2. Plus, the 2 Aussies who are set to play a big role in the NBA Finals before heading to the Olympics.
And will the rain clear up in time for the long weekend? I'll have your public holiday forecast shortly.
Blues players have backed Joseph Swali'i to bounce back from a horror origin, which saw him sent off after just 7 minutes. The man on the receiving end of the tackle, Reece Walsh, has questioned if it was deliberate, but says it's part of the game.
Reece Walsh riding his team home looking sprightly after being laid out by Joseph Swali'i. The Queensland superstar wondering out loud about the intent of the tackle.
Any anger towards Joey?
Oh, mate, it's footy. Yeah, it is what it is. Like, yeah, that's footy at the end of the day. Like, if he meant it or not, but just got to move on with it, I guess.
I don't think Joseph's a dirty player, is he?
Nah, mate, that's footy at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like, it's competitive. You know, we love our state, we love our team and our mates, and you know, you want to go out there and do it. You know, anything you can for your team.
Walsh doesn't recall the hit.
So you're okay? Like, you seemed like it was a heavy knock.
Yeah, I remember it. I don't remember, you know, him getting me. Yeah, all good, brother. All best friends. Yeah, no, I remember, you know, the lead up and all that, and then getting up off the ground. I was a bit fuzzy before that, but all good.
He was copping it from fans and giving it back.
Crowd love you, mate. I saw you, they were giving you a bit of lit.
Oh yeah, they were giving it to me. So that's footy. You know, you love that sort of stuff. That's why you turn up and do what you do. But yeah, it's all good.
Queensland team manager Nate Miles gave Swali'i a spray as he left the field, saying to Joseph, "I hope you enjoyed your debut." It was fortunate that Joey had a strong group of family and friends around him last night. His teammates saying Miles was out of line.
I didn't hear that, actually. But yeah, that's actually pretty low of him, eh? Oh, well, it is the big Origin arena, and, you know, you cop sprays every now and then.
No thoughts, he's retired.
I guess he can say what he wants, right?
Yeah, he's not playing anymore, so he can do what he wants.
Joseph's Rooster teammates offering strong support.
Dream of that moment as a kid and on debut, and to be cut short after 10 minutes is disappointing for him. And yeah, like I said, mate, that's sometimes the cards you're dealt, and he's a strong kid, and he'll work through it and he'll be back, and yeah, he's got so much to offer. He definitely bounced back. I'll definitely get around him. He's my Blues teammate, my Roosters teammate, and I've been with him since the start, so I'll definitely throw my support around him. I'm sure many people will as well.
We always go out there to compete, but not to hurt each other. So, you know, I hope Walsh is all good, and I'm sure Joseph will be, you know, doing everything he can to, you know, check up on the bro and make sure he's all good.
And as for a bounce back in game 2,
super proud of the boys. I thought we absolutely scrambled out off, and I'll be ready to go for game 2 as well.
I don't think the character of the side can be questioned.
Oh, absolutely, mate. We'll build on that all week.
Hard to win a series, I know. Isn't it? One down, it's going to take some real guts.
Yeah, well, mate, we're always going to have to win the next game, so.
Danny Weidler, 9 News.
The Origin footy extravaganza continues tonight with the Sky Blues looking to win the series against Queensland with a game in hand. Emma Lawrence is in Newcastle, and Emma, can the women restore some state pride?
We hope so, James. We are right behind them all the way. Feel good alongside me here in Newcastle. Gus, can I ask you firstly just on last night? It will take a huge effort now for the Blues to turn this series around. Do you think they have what it takes?
Absolutely, yeah. The series is only one game mould. You know, it's a 3-game series. Get your opportunity to brush themselves off, learn what they need to learn from game 1 and get it better in game 2. And if you can get into a decider, well, you're in the contest again. There's a lot to learn out of last night's display, though. Queensland were quite athletic, quite fast and quite skillful. New South Wales needs to change the way it plays the game and not just the way it thinks about the game.
And tonight the Sky Blues come in as heavy favourites. Do you think they're wrapping up the series?
Listen, it's going to be a lot harder than it was in game 1. They got off to a brilliant start in game 1, scored 2 tries in the first 10 minutes. For the rest of the contest, it was very even. I think Queensland will see them coming tonight. Queensland have also made some significant changes to their spine, which I think brings them right back into the contest. Love to see the Blues win. We need something out of this week for the Blues. I don't want to be going to a decider in Townsville.
Fingers crossed. Well, sold out here in Newcastle, and James, coverage begins from 7:30. We'll see you then.
Sounds good. Emma and Gus, thank you. Well, the scoreboard at Concord Oval read Slay the Dragon today, and that's just what the Tigers are hoping to do against St George Illawarra tomorrow. Benji Marshall defending his decision to head to Fiji for a family holiday during his side's bye round.
I preach to the players that family's number 1, footy's number 2. You know, so in that break, spend some time with your family. So if I'm leading that and preaching that, I'm going to do that too. So, yeah, I feel fresh too.
The Tigers have lost 8 straight matches. The Giants are also coming off a bye and welcome forward Callum Brown back from a 3-game suspension for Saturday's AFL match against Hawthorn in Launceston.
I feel like when he's in the side, we're definitely a better team. He just adds such a different aspect to the forward line. Obviously, he's so fast, but he can take a mark.
GWS has won its last 3 clashes against the Hawks. It's a massive couple of months coming up for Australian basketball stars Dante Exum and Josh Green. Tomorrow they'll line up for the Dallas Mavericks in Game 1 of the NBA Finals against the Boston Celtics before setting their sights on Paris and Olympic gold.
In Boston's revered and feared TD Garden, Dante Exum and Josh Green are about to play the biggest series of their careers.
Where I come from in Australia, Castle Hill, it's like, you dream of stuff like this.
It's a long way from those early days, playing for his junior basketball team, the Penrith Panthers. Drafted by the Mavericks in 2020, this has been Green's breakout season.
Green
As Dallas stormed the Western Conference.
When we moved over to America and I was about to move back to Australia to play Australian rules, but I'm glad I chose basketball.
He's now on a contract worth more than $60 million. For Dante Exum, this is a comeback after serious injuries and setbacks.
In the corner, 3 Exum.
Spending 2 years in NBA exile in the European League.
Looking at me and Josh and being here, it's possible. You just got to work hard.
The Boston Celtics are seeking NBA history, what would be a record-breaking 18th title. But the Mavericks are relishing being the underdogs.
Josh is great. Exum, his first year with us has been incredible, and they've been a big part of our success.
The Aussies will be key role players in their first ever NBA Finals, a career milestone before heading to Paris, where the Boomers are aiming for back-to-back medals.
We're both excited, and I think the Olympics is going to be a great opportunity for us to kind of, pick up where we left off in last Olympics.
We're going for gold, man. Going for gold.
In Boston, Alison Petrowski, 9 News.
Alex de Minaur's dream French Open run is over. The Australian defeated in the quarterfinals by world number 4, Alexander Zverev. Despite the loss, de Minaur still equalled his best result at a Grand Slam and says he's excited to be in good form ahead of the grass court season. And a successful but rusty start to the T20 World Cup for Australia, who defeated Oman in their first match in Barbados. David Warner hit 56 on his way to becoming Australia's highest T20 run scorer. Marcus Stoinis was the star, belting 67. The Aussies making a modest 164. Stoinis then taking 3 for 19. Australia winning by 39 runs. Pete, that's it for now. No drama like Origin drama. Hopefully tonight with the women, a lot more footy than that.
Fantastic. Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Road warning for the long weekend. That is next. Also inside Campbelltown's new $34 million water park, and a touching moment between a D-Day veteran and Prince William about Kate's cancer fight.
Commonwealth Bank's share price has been one of the finance stories of the year. Today it topped a new record high around $125 a share. That happened right on cue because ABS data today also showed the average new mortgage size across Australia is now a thumping $675,000. And that's a record too. So today we saw clearly big loans mean big bank share prices. CBA helped the share market as a whole, the ASX gaining 52 points. The whole finance sector is now up 3% this week. And the Aussie dollar was back within reach of 67 US cents today. Finally, interest rates around the world are starting to come down. The Bank of Canada cut rates for the first time in 4 years last night. The European Central Bank is tipped to do the same tonight, and markets are pricing in 1 or 2 cuts in the US this year. Most major economists reckon Australia will be a little bit behind, 1 cut expected in November.
Thank you, Chris. A warning ahead of the long weekend. Double demerits kick in from midnight tonight until 11:59pm on Monday. Police say they'll be out in full force, not only targeting speeding drivers, but those under the influence of alcohol and drugs. It's taken 4 years and $34 million to build, but Campbelltown's Billabong Parklands is ready to make a splash. Opening to the public on Saturday, it's set to become a major attraction in our southwest.
A man-made oasis surrounded by greenery. This is the new cool heart of Campbelltown.
This is the first of its kind in New South Wales.
The 4-hectare Billabong Parkland's designed to bring out the best of bush and beach, featuring rock pools and streams, splash play and an Olympic-sized lagoon.
The Billabong is based on our Dharawal National Park.
We laid 300,000 beautiful coloured tiles that were specifically chosen to reflect natural waterways.
Local kids there to give the park a dry run today, unable to resist a splash, shoes and all.
Today I'm good swimming in here and it's so much fun.
Since construction began in 2020, the project has been plagued by delays, with ratepayers paying an extra $16 million. An audit ordered by council finding the early phases of the project were undertaken rapidly, without a detailed business case and a lack of design.
Did we learn from it? Of course we did. Was it delayed? Yes. But at the end of the day, this project will last for the next 50 years.
But the wait is almost over. The public will have their first splash here this long weekend. The parkland said to attract up to 250,000 visitors a year. For the next 12 months, entry will be ticketed but free for all to enjoy the new Water Wonderland.
The nearest beach from us is probably about an hour away, so here is about 20 minutes from home, so it's a lot closer for us.
In Bradbury, Elizabeth Bryan, 9 News.
Prince William has shared a touching moment with a D-Day veteran who asked him about Catherine's health.
I was going to ask you if your wife was getting any better.
Yes, she'd love to be here today.
The Princess of Wales is undergoing treatment for cancer. This is the moment a toddler was grabbed by a giraffe while visiting a drive-through safari park in Texas. The young girl was sitting in the tray of a ute with a bag of food for the animal when it snatched her. Thankfully, her mum was close by and able to catch her. Coming up in the news, Amber with our weather.
Thanks, Pete. Sydney is in for a drenching tonight. Our southern suburbs copping the heaviest rain. A severe weather warning is in place. Right now, it's around 13 degrees outside. I'll have your full forecast in just a moment. Sydney woke up to some blue skies this morning, but it didn't last. Grey clouds rolling in with rain starting to fall mid-morning. This was the view looking towards North and South Head at sunrise, while in comparison, this was all you could see at 3 p.m. Our northern and western suburbs picking up 5 to 30 millimetres of rain today. Our southern suburbs seeing a heavier 20 to 50 millimetres. Tonight we could see another 30 to 60 millimetres of rain, the heaviest falls remaining in the south. And that could see Warragamba Dam spill. It's currently at around 98% capacity and that amount of rain will see it overflow. Commuters in tonight's peak hour traffic currently dealing with flooded roads and at times torrential downpours. This is Spit Road in Mossman a little earlier. There is a severe weather warning in place for southern Sydney as well as the Illawarra, the south coast and the southern and central tablelands. There is a minor to moderate flood warning for the Hawkesbury and Nepean rivers around Menangle, North Richmond and Windsor. Across New South Wales today, we've seen torrential rain on the south coast and the Illawarra with more than 150 millimetres of rain over the past 24 hours with lighter falls in the Hunter and the southern and central tablelands. Tomorrow, that heavy rain will gradually ease across New South Wales and eastern Victoria. We're expecting afternoon showers in Canberra with a top of 15, partly cloudy skies and 17 in Melbourne, cloudy in Adelaide and a shower or two on the way for Perth. Heavy rain is expected from Sydney down to Eden and as far inland as Orange tomorrow with lighter falls further west. Coastal areas could see 25 to 100 millimetres of rain with isolated falls of more than 150 millimetres. Let's take a look at Sydney. It will be wet tomorrow with rain, most likely in the morning with a possible storm and light to moderate southerly winds. On top of tonight's rain, we're expecting an additional 15 to 30 millimetres of rain tomorrow. That's along coastal suburbs and 15 to 35 millimetres in our western suburbs. We'll see mild overnight lows followed by tops of 17 to 19 degrees right across the Sydney basin. Let's take a look ahead. Unfortunately, it does look like it will dry out for the long weekend. Just a possible early shower on Saturday in the city with a top of 20 degrees. Sunday looking dry with a top of 20, then fine and 19 for the holiday Monday. In our western suburbs, it will be partly cloudy on Saturday, a top of 20 degrees, sunny and 19 on Sunday with a few clouds around on the holiday Monday, but we are expecting torrential rain tonight, Pete.
Well done, Amber. Thank you. Ali is next with the current affair. That is 9 News for this Thursday. I'm Peter Overton. I hope you have a good evening. From all of us, good night.